Welcome to the Real Triathlon Podcast. I'm your host, Garrick Lowen, here with Nicholas Chase and Jackson Laundry.
Welcome back to the show. There's been a lot going on over the past few weeks. We've all been racing a lot. We've all had, we're heading into holidays. School started for people. Andre, when I heard that Clash wanted to come on the show and talk about what you all have been up to, I was like, that's great. I would love to know more about what Clash has been doing. And Andre, like, what are you in charge of now at Clash? Probably everything.
Well, yeah, first off, thanks for having me. We're always excited to be able to talk about some of the things we have going on. We don't have as big of a microphone as some of the other big companies in the industry, so it's always nice to connect with some folks that, have raced with us in the past like you have, and kind of get an idea of what it is we're trying to do. So I think Nick, we're a small team, so we all wear many hats, but kind of running the day-to-day operations there, both race operations, logistics. We're plugged in with some of the marketing, some of the sponsorship stuff, and then some of the bigger picture items with, putting in bids for hosting some of the national championships and some of the other things that, we'll get into some of the details on, but it's been a good ride thus far.
What I've always enjoyed about Clash and the organization is Bill is as CEO, Bill Christie. He's still the CEO, right? He didn't change his title or something.
No. He's still the boss, but he also wears many hats with his, his NASCAR responsibilities and some of the other things he has up in the area. He's on the board of directors for University of Central Florida, which is the largest university in the country. So he's always got a lot of
medical device sales, entrepreneurial, everything, startup guy.
Yeah, and then he still races a bunch.
Yeah.
I don't know how he gets it all done, but
well, I know how he gets it all done because I know the scoop that he makes you all do things that you never thought you'd be doing on top of all the other things you never thought you'd be doing. The guy is he's a visionary, and to his detriment and to our beneficiary, obviously.
Yeah, no, that's always good when somebody kind of push you and, give you some challenge and some directive, and you just got to make it happen, which is a good thing, right?
So the last things, I haven't had an opportunity to race Clash this year since, I think, when was the last pro event you all had? Was it Daytona 2023?
That with a standalone Clash pro event would have been March of 23, would have been Miami. And then we had Daytona 2022 was our last big televised pro event that we did there in Daytona.
Right. And Clash has always been an organization that is looking to, and this is why I've always appreciated what Bill does and what you all have to creatively work within, is you're looking to fill a lot of holes within the triathlon industry. The market is never really curated to, the athlete welfare experience, their families, the opportunity to, have a little bit of logistical, easiness. Sometimes it's crazy to show up to a race, have multiple transitions, training before and after races. So Clash has always been really looking to make it the NASCAR venue, which is designed for hundreds of thousands of people, take on, the seemingly niche sport. And that's really what I've always loved. And I think you all still have Daytona and Miami as your main focal points, but what are you all looking to expand on in the future? Are there going to be more Clash races? Are you going to bring pros back into the mix? Are you just going to be building this strong partnership with USAT to make sure that their multiple races are taken care of? How are those things looking?
I think, Nick, it's a little bit of everything, right? Expanding doesn't just mean you add new locations and new event weekends, right? So we are looking purely at Daytona, right? A few years ago, the Speedway has the longest Christmas light drive-through in the state of Florida, right? It's over 2 miles, and they push cars through there every night during the month of December. We were like, you know what? We need to run our 5K through there. So we kick off the weekend with 12 to 1,500 people in our 5K on Friday night, which is some of the triathletes' families, a community-based event. So it's, for us as a business, is finding those little add-ons for the weekend when we have the events. Last year, we started dabbling in cycling only events, right? So we have Red Line Relay, just kind of like NASCAR on bikes. Each relay team gets their own pit stall on pit road. That's where they do the exchanges from the riders. We had some real good engagement with that in Daytona and Miami. So last year for Daytona, we also added something we call test track. We have so many people just want to be out on the track riding and running all the time, but it gets hard because we're trying to produce sprint triathlon, kids triathlon, the middle distance triathlon. So we had an hour of downtime. We're like, you know what? Bring out, pay your 25, $30, bring your helmet and your bike, whatever kind of bike you got, beach cruiser, hybrid, e-bike, kids bike, and you get to ride around on the track for an hour. So for us, it's a little bit of honing our existing events to just maximize everything we can do from a athlete experience, athlete exposure, and really getting those events dialed, because they're big events. I mean, Daytona is close to 3,400 athletes all in last year. We should surpass that this year. You tell anybody you're putting on a 3,400, 3,500 person event. I mean, that's big. So working with that, and then with the venues we have in Miami this last year, we hosted our age group events. We hosted the Continental Championships for elites, elite juniors, and elite para, and we were the last qualifying event for the Paris Paralympics. We sent 5 athletes there. One of them got a gold medal. I mean, for me, that was a really cool race directing moment, is to say, hey, those people just raced with us, and they'll be in the Olympics in a couple months. So, at finding ways that we can utilize our venues and our resources to help. It's maybe not just us throwing $50,000 at a prize purse, but we're able to give those elite athletes. Morgan Pearson won for us in Miami, and he was so appreciative to be able to race on U.S. soil. And we haven't had a World Cup event in the U.S. since, I think, 2016, 2017. So we're looking to do some stuff in that space. And then we worked with T100 with the PTO. We hosted them in Miami as well. So we're really trying to service a lot of sides of our little niche endurance community. And I guess that's where some of our growth is coming. And obviously we're looking at expanding to a few other venues in the future, but
you can't tell us.
What's that?
You can't tell us the venues or anything nearby. I mean, people
Well,
want to know.
it's nothing concrete. I mean, you can get on any internet site and look at the tracks that NASCAR owns. You can whittle it down pretty quickly. We did Watkins Glen, which was an amazing event, amazing venue. Just a couple things that we had going against us is that's the only weekend during swimmable months that far north that we could utilize the track. And it happens to be the same weekend as Ironman's Muscle Man event, which is 40 miles away on the other shore of the lake. It's the weekend before that new 70.3 that takes place at Penn State, which is hugely successful. So there's a number of factors kind of working against us to really dive in. It's also halfway across the country from our home base, so we're trucking equipment up there, staff up there. We carry a lot of costs to produce events far off, but we're definitely looking to expand some. So
does that
kind of answer the question?
It does. You all do a ton, and that's really the main reason I asked you, to kind of spread light onto where you all really are making the biggest impact. And that is really probably not in the dominant mass participation, everyone, because why would you want to try to take or compete or do everything Ironman is already doing? You want to do things a little different with your own flair, maybe focus more on a very personal experience, a community-based experience, taking care of youth development, para development. I love that. I think that there's plenty to go around. There's plenty of athlete base. And I think over time, after you've been in the sport for 5 or 6 years, you are looking for something a little bit more unique. And racing around Daytona, I've done it, I think 3 or 4 times, in Miami 3 or 4 times, and having the opportunity to race in Watkins Glen, I really wish Watkins Glen could have worked, because that place, the terrain, the water, I mean, even just being at the southern part of the Finger Lake region, and then Muscle Man being at the northern part, I was like, man, I really feel like this is a tough place to put a race on this time of year because of what you just mentioned. And of course, track time. So you're up against a lot, but the assets you do have, Miami and Daytona have been flagships for you all. And I've always loved racing there. It's a unique experience. If you haven't had a chance yet, you got to check it out.
Yeah, and that's I think you hit the nail on the head. We're able to do stuff differently, and Ironman falls into, I mean, they're great at what they do, put on some amazing events. They have a hugely talented crew of staff, but they fall into a box, right? 70.3 has to be 70.3 distance. Full Ironman, they don't have the ability to deviate. whereas we did with Watkins Glen, you raced, we did the 1.2 mile swim, 50-mile bike, and 10-mile run. And, when we launched it, people got on us because it's not enough mileage. They're not going to get their money's worth. And I ran into a handful of people this last weekend at USA Nationals who did it and said, man, I hated that race when I was doing it. But when I crossed the finish line, I was like, oh, I got to do that again. That's why I got into the sport. I mean, Starkowitz, right? The beast on the bike, he didn't break 2 hours for a 50-mile ride, let alone a 56-mile ride. So it gives you some semblance of what that course was. And I think the pendulum in the sport, I think, is changing back to the way it was kind of in the 90s, where people are looking for those unique individual challenges, and they don't want to just go flat course PR. Not, 95% of the people doing triathlon aren't trying to qualify for some championship. They're just trying to have a good time and stay healthy and stay fit. And that's kind of part of the niche that we're trying to fill.
Exactly. There's plenty of downhill marathons where you can go get your Boston qualification time. But when it comes to like an experience, a journey, like trail running turns to ultra running, and that's what triathlon is doing. You've got all these set events that have been around forever, and Clash can come in and take some of that, fun. And I mean, just the surrounding areas of what Watkins Glen brought in. I mean, I've always thought about this too. I'm like, which NASCAR tracks are near water and have decent riding, and then you could run on the track or something? And there's not that many that have that kind of equation. I was even thinking there's probably at least 4 or 5. Which ones do you have in mind? Which locations would work?
Probably KC would be one of them. Has water near enough by, but it's, as you know, we've dabbled in bike racing, mountain biking. We did out of Road Atlanta. So that's the nice thing about being Clash Endurance is we're not just a triathlon company.
Ooh, yeah.
So I tell people to stay put. And then, we're also looking at, they don't necessarily need to be NASCAR on tracks. That's the nice thing with working in the building that I work in is I have a warm and fuzzy, a warm lead to just about any motorsports facility in the US. So, yeah, it's been an amazing place to work. That, there's a lot that we can kind of dream up and think of, and then we actually have the resources, the connections that we can start to make things happen.
So you all are dominant voice within the sport in North America. You're looking to continue growth. You're looking to solidify more partnerships. What's your general pulse of triathlon? There's a lot of ups and downs with the industry, with the economy, with athletes, retainability. How are you generally feeling about your scope within the investment opportunities, bigger partnerships, bigger hopefully sponsors in the future? And like you said, you referenced the 80s and 90s, maybe the 80s, like when things were pretty booming. We had Bud Light, probably Marlboro was going to try to sponsor. I don't know, Connor too.
Yeah, I started racing in '98, right? So still decent reference to what it was back then. Watched the amazing growth in the 2000s, and no, I mean, pulse wise with other race directors I'm in touch with around the country, not just in triathlon, but in running only space. You're in the industry long enough, people at various levels, various companies, whether they're race production, coaches, facility owners of gyms, bike shops. So you kind of get an idea of the pulse all around. And I think triathlon's really getting poised for sort of a resurgence right now. People are realizing it can be fun, and it doesn't have to be, giving up your entire weekend to train for 8 hours, and then all you can do is sleep on the couch and sit in your recovery boots, and that's the end of your day. So there's a lot more diversity coming into the sport, which I think is also a great play. You see that more and more at events now, and I think that's also going to be a great opportunity for growth. On the business side of things, I think now that we're post Paris, what's the next stop? It's LA, right? So we're bringing Olympic distance mixed relay triathlon on home soil in 4 years' time. That's not a long time. That's focused purely on short course, going fast, you race, you're done. And I think there'll be some opportunity there because, again, people want to be able to do triathlon. And if you slice it up, you do 1 or 2 swims, 1 or 2 bikes, and 1 or 2 runs a week, guess what? You can do a sprint or an Olympic, no problem. And then on the bike side of things, there's no excuses for high cost barriers to entry nowadays. I mean, you get on any used bike website, Facebook Marketplace, you can buy a 10-year-old super bike for $1,000, $1,500, right? So there's no excuse for people to not get their foot wet or to find their friends who've always thought about doing one. You know, you've been racing for 20 years and that guy in your office keeps saying he's going to come out and kick your butt, but he's never done a triathlon before. I think it's up to the existing triathletes to get their friends off the couch, their families, get people involved, and it's easy now. I mean, it really is.
You're right. I think the kids aspect of it is another part, like for even RTS, like we want to start because parents have kids and those kids probably should have a taste of triathlon and see what their parents actually do at some point. And your events are, kind of paint picture perfect for that, where you could have, 50 kids out there day out. I mean, add another event to your list of events. Why not? And then you got donated bikes. You can just set a bike saddle height. They can have no clip ins, just regular pedal and helmet. They can swim in that awesome lake at Miami or Daytona for a couple of seconds and then experience a triathlon. I think that's probably where a lot of us get a little short-sighted when we realize like we need to start seeding this sport for the next 30 years. And these kids, they, even if we put 50 of them in there, maybe 2 or 3 are gonna come off, tell their friends and grow into the sport. But I'd love to see that. Cause I think if you look at London Olympics or even like the legacies of triathlon within some of these places that show a lot of growth after the Olympics, we have an opportunity in the next 4 years to grow the sport, to put more funding into programs that are going to be relative because it's a hot topic. But of course we have to ride that wave too. So Clash has always done that. I've done charity bike builds with you all. You give a lot away.
That's right.
The Daytona or the NASCAR Foundation, like you all, I can't even imagine how much you guys give away.
Yeah, we have an amazing charity partner there in the NASCAR Foundation. They're basically their mission statement is health and wellness and youth. They're in a number of markets where they have large NASCAR facilities. They have a pediatrics unit, so it's kind of race car themed pediatric unit. They are very well funded. They do a bike build in a lot of these markets where they have corporate partners. They engage with folks like us. I know you were there for a couple of the build bikes, and I mean it was great. The one we went to the local Y and we donated 150 bikes and helmets. The local police department was part of it, explaining bike safety to the kids and the whole. But it's just about getting kids out there to be more active and off of screens a little bit. And I think youth sports also is changing. I mean, my kids are 9 and 11. They're involved in gymnastics, cheer, and swimming and cross country, but you talk to parents these days, youth sports are travel sports, practice 6 days a week, equipment, and there isn't much in the middle. You're either not on a team or you have to commit your life away, and there isn't much in the middle. I think that's a void that triathlon can fill because kids can swim once or twice a week or run. They can bike on the weekends with their parents and their kids. They'll be fine in a triathlon.
Yeah.
It doesn't all have to be train for hours and hours and hours, what we typically think of when we think triathlon. So especially the distances the kids race, their races take them 15, 20, 25 minutes, as it should be.
Yeah, we don't want to overdo it. I think that you're right. I think the track and field, swim, I mean, there's not really a big bike contingency within any sports in the US at least. But those kids just get destroyed.
I don't know. Have you heard of NICA? So it's the national.
Yeah. I have. I coach some NICA kids out in Utah.
Yeah. So we have Florida has 10 or 11 teams. One of them here in Jacksonville, where I live, and I think that's a great program. Get kids out on bikes, get them exposed to racing. There's a lot of opportunities, but I think some of those take parents that are dedicated to get their kids involved in it, and then once the kids find their niche, it kind of takes off. I know California and Colorado have robust high school mountain bike racing team or leagues rather. And then some place like Bentonville, Arkansas has a very robust program there as well. So there's a number of things going on. I think what would be great over the next couple of years if we got some kind of cohesion going, but any activity is good activity in my mind.
So Clash does a lot. You have a small footprint of the team, but everyone is very like much an expert. You all have done this for years with even just coming before Clash. I know most of the pedigree of the staff. You guys are great. What do you all want to be? Like what does Clash want to stand for in the triathlon or I'm sorry, the endurance sport world? What's like the narrative that you want athletes to resonate with?
I think I really want us to be viewed as the events where people know that everything is taken care of from a safety standpoint, athlete food, check-in, communication, just the overall customer service and experience. I want that to be there and nailed. And then on the flip side, to have the event racing experience. There's a pointy end because people want to race. We're a participatory sport, but people still want to go fast and test themselves. So I want to have that avenue available for the people that want to go fast and really compete and test themselves. And then on the flip side, we also need to be open and welcoming for newcomers, people of all, I guess it's a car term, all makes and models, to be able to come in and just enjoy our events and enjoy the lifestyle because we're all in it for similar purposes, right? Whether we have it's a stress relief, it's a means for us to stay fit and healthy, to engage with friends and family. So that's what I want us to be known for is the welcoming kind of all-inclusive one-stop shop for your fitness, endurance, racing, habit, hobby needs, right? That's a big catch-all and it's kind of a lot to take on, but that's where I see us having a niche.
Well, I think USAT in the last few years, they've lost a lot of like their, I guess, foundation as to why what is USAT doing for all of us? Like we don't get to know about that. I mean, I'm not saying they're not doing anything at all. I'm just saying it seems like the other major race organization narratives seem to kind of take the marketing, the media, even when it comes to some of the youth development or Olympian pathways. I think short course triathlon, it doesn't really get the press it used to. And I think you all are trying to help that for sure because USAT needs a little bit more of an uplift. They also need to do a little bit more of this fun stuff and to put their name out there and show that they're willing to develop the sport. And they have the means and resources to do it through cultivating relationships like you all. And it sounds like next year, from what I heard, Collegiate Nationals is going to be a big launch point for Clash Miami. And I think that's something you all are really excited about.
Yeah, well, and being at we were in Atlantic City this last week and at Nationals, ran into some of the collegiate athletes there. But again, ways that we can partner and help the sport, help the federation, and continue to kind of elevate our events and what we are. So we put in a bid to host Collegiate Club Nationals, which, if you're not familiar with it, was held in California the last couple of years. Georgia prior to that, there was a pause for COVID, but it's not the NCAA athletes, it's the collegiate clubs.
And they're passionate because they got to buy all their shit.
Yes, they're passionate, but the cool thing with collegiate club is they're able to have teams of 30, 40, 50, 60. It's not like there's a coach, there's not tryouts, it's all are welcome. So the last few years, they've had right about 1,000 athletes going out for collegiate nationals. It consists of draft legal racing, which is 75 men, 75 women on the start line. So the teams kind of pick their top one or two athletes to send them to the start line. World Cup type format, draft legal racing, super exciting and super high level of competition. And I don't doubt that some of the athletes we'll have on the start line in Miami of 25 will be looking towards LA 2028. I can pretty much guarantee that. So that's cool to be a part of. Part of the draft legal, we'll also have a mixed relay, which is an Olympic format for triathlon. So each of these collegiate teams will have 2 male, 2 female doing the swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run, swim, bike, run, which is perfect for the Miami venue, utilizing the road course, the lefts, rights. I think that is probably going to be the most exciting event of the weekend.
It always is.
Yeah. So we'll have Friday will be draft legal. Saturday morning will be the collegiate club Olympic distance. So that's the bulk, that's the volume of that we're hoping to hit 1,200 plus. I think they were at 1,200 athletes in 2019, and they're all hopeful that we'll surpass that because they haven't had it on the East Coast now for a number of years, and that's where a lot of the big schools are. Miami is very easy to fly into. It's 45 minutes from Miami International, which has direct flights to just about every city in the U.S.
And there's a lot of vans you can rent because you got to have vans.
I have vans. We're working on some stuff for bike transport, and then we haven't done this previously in Miami, but right outside of turn 2, the Geico RV lot, there's 140 RV camping spots, all with water and power hookup. So we have some good RV rental partners that we'll be working with to make this an affordable, economical, and just logistically simple event for the collegiate athletes to come in, because they can rent pop-up camper RV, pack 4 of them in there, stay on property. So we're already planning on, bonfires. We're going to use the Jumbotron for some watch, because the race is end of March. So we're going to do some watch parties for March Madness, which I think will engage the groups. We're trying to, rack the schools together. So you might have Virginia Tech down this row, Cal Poly over here.
Oh my God.
We're going to bring in food trucks in the evening. So we're really going to try to blow it out for the collegiate athletes and make them just have some ownership of the weekend. And then it sounds like all we're doing is collegiate stuff, but we have on Sunday our age group sprint distance and our age group, what we call the Miami distance, which is a bit of a hybrid, like we did in Watkins Glen. People told us it's too early in the season to race the 70.3 distance, but we want something. So it's a mile swim, 30-mile bike, and an 8-mile run. So a little longer than an Olympic distance. So you get your money's worth. You'll feel the burn early in the season, but you're not going to overcook yourself. Just a real good early season hit out to test the fitness, see where the legs are as you kind of progress into the season. So we'll have something for everybody, and we're looking forward to it. We really are.
I like that for sure. I think you've listened to speculative comments about early season racing, because we all have, sometimes like I'll race in March and go a half distance, but most Canadian athletes or athletes who've been indoors for so long, they don't want to race outside until like April. And they don't want to really peak until that for their first series of races. So I think that's great. And I think, man, I can't wait to hear how that collegiate party goes. I mean, putting all those kids in it's going to be like Woodstock of collegiate triathlon, I feel like.
Well, and the thing is, keep in mind, is they're all athletes that are racing. So, Thursday night, Friday night, they're before their races, but we're thinking Saturday after they've raced, to give them a good venue. It falls around spring break for some schools, some conferences, doesn't for others. It's just kind of luck of the draw, but
you have a concert,
don't want to make
man.
it necessary. We're not looking at Woodstock, but this is what triathlon should be. It should be about camaraderie and hanging out. And, it's not like you cross the finish line and you got to right away upload, your Strava profile and what your nutrition was. It's okay to have a burger afterward and just chat with folks and see how their day was. And it's kind of the old days, like what Wildflower was in the 90s, where it was more about community racing, pushing yourself hard, and then having a good time with people.
Speaking of that, I heard that race is coming back.
I heard something about that too, and I didn't delve too far into the details. Somebody had mentioned it to me, and I think that's great. I never made it out to that race in its heyday, which I always regret. But I've heard the stories from some of the old timers, seen some pictures, and I think the sport needs a little bit more of that now. I mean, we need to kind of, unbutton our top button, loosen our ties, and take our jackets off and just relax a little bit overall as a triathlon group.
Yeah, I think we've kind of put ourselves in a bubble where like my bike has to be perfect. I can't have any dust or dirt on it. I got a wax chain, best position possible. Like we've gotten really fine tuned in a lot of ways, and having a race where we can relax is going to be awesome. Like I did have a chance to do Wildfire before the water was gone pretty much, but it was still like you had to swim, then run 1.3 miles, then bike, and then run 11 something miles because they took off that run from the transition run. Yeah, but it was awesome, and it was really challenging. I think that's the other part is it's hilly, it's dirt. That race should be good. And I think with what you all offer, like Miami, it sounds like a bit of a flat, fun course, but can be really muggy and hot. And we've seen the pro races there when we've had them at Clash Miami. There's a lot of attrition out there because it gets hot and people don't really realize it. So I think that's the fun part too in Florida. And then after the race, like even when we were in Miami, we drove from Homestead to Key West within a short amount of time and had some time in the Keys afterwards. So it's just a good
Yeah, and
destination for
it's
everything.
yeah, we've already talked to a number of the college teams with or USAT Collegiate Commission with a lot of coaches, some I guess the team captains you'd call them, just really trying to present this as it's not just a race you're going to, like you guys can make a team event out of it, kind of bonding for the
Yeah.
year, recruiting new folks. And I think collegiate triathlon, if done right, will kind of fuel the next level of the sport because they're 18 to 22. They're coming out. They're going to be getting jobs soon. They're going to have disposable income, and we'd rather have them spend that on health and wellness,
Yeah.
right? And staying involved in the sport. And I think that'll shape the sport a little bit over the next 4 years, right? These people that are racing collegiate nationals this year, they'll be in their mid late 20s come LA. So we're hoping to just plant some really good seeds and keep these folks involved in the sports that we all love so much.
Yeah. And as you know, I'm 38 now, and whenever I go to these races, since I've been racing for 15 years, almost 12 of them professionally, like there's a lot of names I don't recognize anymore, and they're young kids and they are just so excited to have this opportunity. And for me, it's like, remember what it was like to just have so much passion and dedication to just to see to not have any idea what you could do with your success or sport, or have a backing, or have a place you can go to that they care about you and they want you to do well. So there's more opportunities now for kids in these sports than ever, and you all are giving a big leg up on that.
Yeah, and I think there's also going to be some really good opportunities to bring in non-endemic brands, so not swim, bike, run, and nutrition type partners. Especially if we can keep with collegiate nationals, that's 1,000 to 1,200 18 to 22-year-olds who are really just coming into their own. That's a highly sought after marketing demographic. So we're actively engaged with some good brands and want to make sure that everything is additive to the experience, and their brands that fit the mold. I mean, we're not going to be getting cigarette sponsors for these types of events. And brands are smarter now too. They know what audiences they want to be in front of. They know how to position themselves. That whole space has evolved a lot over the last 20 years, and the last say 5 to 10 years, especially with the importance of social media. As you know, it's kind of a holistic approach to marketing. It's not just slapping logos around a venue or putting logos on the back of a t-shirt. It's really evolved, which is a good thing.
What would you ideally like to have as like some partners? Like what type of brands? You don't have to say the exact names, but what would you think would fit and fill and have a nice niche to be part of this sport?
I mean, me and my son, we always have a competition, see who can eat the most, but I would love taco brand. I mean, to have somebody supply tacos would be amazing. Sorry, that's my selfish one, but I think there's a lot of healthcare type companies, health insurance, financial services. I think that it's really evolved. You talk to 12-year-old kids now, and they know about Bitcoin, and they know
Yeah.
about ROI, and it's I don't know where they're getting all the info from, but I think those companies are smart enough and sophisticated enough to know where their future clientele will come from, and they have pockets to support marketing efforts in those spaces.
Yeah.
So hope,
Crypto.com was all over Formula One for like half a season. And then they kind of, some things.
yeah, and it's interesting because funding in sports is very cyclical. As they revolve around essentially the two suns that they revolve around is the Olympic Games and the World Cup. And the money kind of, they call it the quad, but money kind of dries up the first year of the quad, and then it slowly starts ramping up year 2, year 3, and then by year 4, people are, if depending which countries you're in, they're throwing money, everything that has anything to do with World Cup. They pull all their funding from other sports and throw it all into soccer. And then, which again, with having the Olympics on home soil in 4 years' time, I mean, there'll be a real interesting push across all sports and onshoring of world championships, World Cups, Olympic trials, you name it. I mean, brands are going to want to get that exposure in the US market, and they have a 4 year runway to do it. So I think triathlon, if some partners, some event companies, some federations, if they play their cards right and identify some quality partners for the run up for the next 4 years, could be highly impactful.
That's awesome. I mean, I've been, as you know, I've been trying to bring those types of people to even our team since I started. Why don't we have these larger companies engaged with us? Because our demographic of athlete is committed.
Oh yeah.
They will spend assets on what they believe in because it's a great lifestyle. It's good for their kids. It's good for their longevity as CEOs, as successful people. I think we're fighting a good fight to get these brands aware that there's good people who they can build alliances with.
Yeah, and they're highly engaged. That's
Yeah.
the one other thing. You track the stats on Facebook and Instagram engagement for triathletes. I mean, the amount of minutes that they consume of videos blows anything else out of the water.
Yeah.
Which it means you have a wealthy people with disposable income who
And some
travel
time.
well. They'll spend minutes looking at your ads and your content if it's done right. So you know that they're impressionable. It's just a matter of getting the right marketing managers at some of these brands who really understand those concepts.
Yeah. Now, I'm fine with all that technology and tracking and stuff being used for good, not evil. So as long as we're
Yes, 100% agree. Sometimes good when you get an ad pops up that's tailored for something you've been looking for, and lo and behold, the sale pops up the next day. You're like, ooh, buy it now.
Yeah, I agree. So Andre, what if you could change one aspect about triathlon to improve it for future athletes, I guess the individual athlete you're speaking to, what would you give them in terms of advice to make sure that they can sustain this lifestyle, be successful, and stick around? What one thing could they
For
do?
an individual triathlete,
Yeah, what could they do?
biggest thing would be, don't take it too seriously. I know you talk to some, I'm sure you had some athletes you've coached over the years who they get stressed out about racing, right? Stressed out about getting there, parking. Can I rack my bike? Am I there on time? Did I pack my bottles? Did I put enough, you know, whatever they're drinking? Did I mix it together? It doesn't have to be so stressful. I've been racing. This is a silly anecdote, but I just a couple weeks back, I did a local sprint try to keep my streak. I've been in triathlon continuously since '98, so but everything that's 27 years, and you can just I wasn't fit at all, but I just went, popped up to the start line, and I just swam and I biked and I ran and I had a blast, and kind of keeps me engaged and helps me keep my finger on the pulse of the sport. But talking to a number of people, they're like, I couldn't do that. I'm not going to a race unless I'm in shape, unless I'm fit, it doesn't have to be that, right? If you're not in shape, you're still going to go to the gym, right? You know, I'm feeling fat, I can't go work out. What if people? No, it just needs to be fun. And I think the big pendulum of the sport is slowly starting to come back around that way. And that's something that we're going to keep pushing in our events. Through the types of athlete food we have, music on course. Um, we split our sprint. We have a competitive wave and a recreational wave. So those folks that want to race, and on your left, they can do that. But the first timers, or people who are just coming out to have a good time, they don't need that. They don't need to be yelled at on course. They don't even know what drafting is. So to yell at them, hey, you're triathlon again, it's fun. It's about a lifestyle thing. So that would be my biggest piece of advice: is don't take it too serious, have some fun, and just enjoy yourself.
I love it. I think I've got a challenge. You guys can talk to Bill about this and see if we can put some budget together. See if Clash will sponsor it. For a while, we've wanted to put on like a bit of a pro event. Maybe we've got 8 or 9 pros, and they could be any level. Doesn't matter, because the number one, I guess, level playing field is we'll give each professional athlete a set amount of dollars to go into Walmart and we'll give them about 35 minutes, and they have to, maybe even 25 minutes. They have to buy everything that they're going to race the next day with at Walmart: nutrition, bike, shoes, goggles, everything you will need on the race. And it'll be like, probably between sprint and Olympic. It'll be short enough, but fun to where you can cause some drama. We could do it at a class speedway. We could do it anywhere, but we're just looking to find like a fun group of people to get that together, because I mean, it'll cost a little money to put the marketing in there, get the funding to buy the assets. We'll donate everything afterwards. And I think that that's something we've been, as a Real Tri Squad, we've been wanting to put together for a few years.
You know what, Nick, I really like this idea.
Can't take
really
it.
do it.
You can work
So,
with it though.
no. So there's a race up at Road Atlanta. It's a NASCAR owned facility. So they do. So Road Atlanta hosts the Petite Le Mans there. It's a 6-hour race, part of the IMSA racing circuit. So big money, big circuit, and the Petite Le Mans. And so just a few weeks after that, there's a race hosted up there that's been going on for years now. It's the 24-hour of Lemons. So the teams, I have some friends that fielded the team last year. You buy a car, there's a few different divisions, but there's monetary cap. So you have to buy a car that's less than $1,500, right? So people are just racing these junkers around the track for 24 hours, and they're leaking radiator fluid and all kinds of stuff. But it's as much of a challenge for the purchasing, the maintainment, and just getting to the start line as part of it. And I think watching pros do it would be cool. I think having pros or people that are in the know, whether they're professional athletes or professional coaches or whatever it be, find somebody and say, hey, for $500, I will outfit you and get you to the finish line of your first sprint triathlon. I think that would be pretty cool.
I think that's also, better. Yeah, that's a great idea too.
I do. I like this.
Well, there you go. I got people who would be willing to do it already.
Because I mean, thinking about it, that's a great way for coaching businesses to promote themselves. Like, hey, I'm taking somebody from zero to hero in 3 months and less than $500.
Yeah, well, we've got to figure out if we can do it for $500.
Yeah,
we got to test it.
Cruise around Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. I mean, you'd be surprised how many tri bikes are people are,
especially disc or rim brake or
yeah, you find some kind of old, like a soft ride, right? Or like one of those Trek Y-foils from back in the day.
Yeah, man.
Should be museum pieces.
Well, see if we can get it as an official event, and we'll work on it together.
I'll bring that up to Bill. So it'll be the low budget challenge, the low budget. So we can have the lowest budget pro race ever. We used to have a really big budget. We hosted the $1 million prize purse.
And now it can just be about production value and laughs and just all the fun that comes along with that aspect.
And engagement. I mean, it makes for some great content, right?
Yeah. So yeah,
I want to do like a retro. Now I don't want to say costume division.
They just did the retro one with Joe Skipper in GCN or GTN. They put like a GTN correspondent up against Joe Skipper, and Joe Skipper was dressed in like the crop top and like the crazy aero helmet and some terrible soft ride bike, and they put him through a race. So they did that at least.
I'll have to look that episode. GTN puts out some really good content. I did not see that episode.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch that tonight.
It's a good one. But we could do it, I think, a little bit more competitive with a lot more people.
Yes, and so, all right, we'll be in touch. I'm gonna now you got my wheels turning. Is that kind of what I would love? That's kind of a pipe dream of mine. I'm an old soul, but I would love to get triathlon back to those mid '90s heydays. Everybody in the neon colors and the speedos and the big mustaches. I mean, I think that'd be a win-win all around.
Yeah, it would just be pure like comedic fun at the end of the day.
Well, sometimes you got to get back to your roots you got to go to the past before you say Back to the Future.
Yeah. There's a movie about that, I think.
Yes.
Man, well, Andre, this is great. Did we hit all the things that Clash is doing? And did I miss any announcements? You guys, did I get them?
I think we hit the high notes. I mean, we're Daytona coming up in December. We're USA Triathlon's long course national. So if you want to go to compete in long course, triathlon, duathlon, or aqua bike in Ponte Vedra, Spain next year, you got to come in and race with us and qualify to be a part of Team USA. That's the big thing. But we also have everything for beginners and on up and kids, the whole thing. And then Miami, I think we kind of laid out the distances. Big announcement with Collegiate Club Nationals, which we're super excited about. Yeah, so we're continuing to grow. We've got our half marathon in Daytona on the Speedway in February, the weekend before the 500.
Nice.
And then stay tuned because we should have some news here in the next probably 3 to 6 months on some 2025.
That's awesome.
Items.
Yeah, clashendurance.com for any of the updates. Check the website out. Check the social media out. You all are always, I mean, I already saw stuff for the jingle jog and putting out some fun content, especially if you're in the Miami area. Like you're right there. You got to do these races. Like if you can drive and sleep in your own bed and just participate like that, there's nothing better. That's why I love living in St. George, because there's one race a year where I get to sleep in my own bed and really have to put the pressure on. And there's nothing better. So if you can do that in Miami and Daytona and just have it's only a couple hours between each speedway. It's not that far.
Yeah, no, not far at all. I mean, for folks in the Southeast, we're drivable. And those looking to fly, Miami and Orlando are super easy options. You can fly into Daytona International Airport.
I've done that.
It's right next to the Speedway. Literally, the runway's half a mile away. So
yeah, and you stay at the Hard Rock and just be treated like a queen or king.
Yes.
Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We'll make sure that we got the show notes populated with all this fun stuff coming up. Congrats on getting the collegiate nationals. I think that's awesome. Whenever we were doing stuff for Super Tri, I was like, we need to have a collegiate Super Tri situation, because those kids would love it to go to 4 or 5 major big schools and then just have a throwdown, over a weekend with that format. But you all are bringing it in one location. And I think it's even better. One location, one safe space, one camp, hotel, drive-in, anything goes. I think that's going to be a success. That looks great.
Yeah, no, we're excited for it. So Nick, thank you for having me. Shout out to everybody on the Real Tri Squad, the Real Triathlon podcast.
You got it, buddy.
Much love as always. And we will chat soon. Best of luck with your season.
Yeah. Coming up. It's about to be done. Got a couple
Yeah,
more races.
What else is on your calendar? We're talking about our stuff so much. I kind of want to know real quick, what's the rundown on the rest of your season?
We just had a good race at Ironman 70.3 Michigan. Jackson won, and I took 10th, which was great for me. Having a bit of an upswing back into some good fitness. Nicole was 6th. Lisa was 4th. We had some age group athletes. I'm going to go race Ironman Chattanooga in 2 weeks. Jackson's going to Kona. We've got Ironman 7.3 World Championship. And outside of that, I think Tamara's doing some T100 races in Ibiza and then in Vegas. I think there's one more even. I don't even remember if they cut that. Oh, she has to do the grand final wherever that's going to be announced. I think Dubai or something. They just finally said.
Oh, did they? Yeah, I saw there was a little back and forth there, but
so
you guys still have a full calendar. A lot of
yeah. Most of us have 3 to 4 races.
Heavy hitters
coming up, man. Whenever you guys ever wants to come back, we'll race with y'all. You just gotta let us know.
Yes. Gosh, I mean, triathlon season it's a long season now. It wasn't like that 20 years ago. I mean, you guys have to be on from basically March through November.
You'll find a lot of us taking a mid-season break though. I raced Roth in July, and then I took about a month and just kind of feathered around a little bit. I still trained, but then I took all of August and got ready for Michigan and Chatty, and now I'm going to take that into the next back half of the year. So we're finding ways to split it up because it is long. March to December is a bit of a.
But that's still you're doing a full in July in Roth, and then you're doing the full in Chattanooga. I mean, to really get a hit out and race that distance. I mean, hats off to you. I mean, I think that's the difference between now and where the sport was 20, 25 years ago is the sheer amount and length of the season that the elites like you guys are doing it's just worlds different than it was.
Yeah. And you've got to race a lot these days. You've got to hit at least 6 to 8 races throughout the year, minimum, just to stay on the headlines, just keep up with performance, to keep up with the buzz. And for points now, if you don't do a minimum of sometimes 6 races that are points grabbing and strategic, you could be looking at, some potential loss. So it's a lot, but that's why we're, as professionals, we're trying to ask for more support, because it's expensive to travel everywhere and stay everywhere. So that's why we're leaning into heavier partnerships and better representation, better professional models. And that's what our team's looking to do. Just represent our sport in a better way.
Yeah, that's great. We're hopeful in the future we'll be able to host you guys again.
I'm sure you will. Even if it's just a couple of fun, Walmart style races.
The Walmart race.
We got to get them to just give us stuff. Give us $500 stipends each.
Oh, that would be awesome.
All right, Andre. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We'll get this out soon, and we'll hopefully see you in the next 12 months somewhere, buddy. I hope I'll run into you.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Nick. Pleasure as always.
All right, buddy. Talk soon.